You've probably noticed it. A man walks into a room, and without saying a word, women notice him. He's not the loudest, not the flashiest, but there's something in the way he carries himself that makes her eyes follow. That's not luck. That's presence. And when you know how to control it, you can create the same magnetic pull. Here's the problem most men face. In public, they think the way to stand out is to perform, talk louder, move bigger, draw attention. But that kind of energy actually pushes women away. It looks like trying too hard. And nothing kills attraction faster than effort that feels needy. The truth is, women aren't drawn to the man who seeks attention. They're drawn to the man who doesn't need it. The one who can sit still, stay calm, and yet somehow pull the room toward him. That energy is rare, and rare is what women chase. In this video, you're going to learn 10 powerful ways to flip the script. Small, subtle actions you can use in public without saying a word that make her curious, make her lean in, and make her remember you long after the moment has passed. These aren't pick-up tricks. They're signals of strength, restraint, and masculine presence that she can't ignore. Let's get into it. Number 1. The smirk that makes her wonder. There's a reason a smirk feels different from a smile. A smile is friendly, it's safe, it tells the world, I want you to like me. But a smirk? That's something else. A smirk says, I know something you don't. I'm not here to convince you. You'll have to figure me out. And that difference is why women can't stop wondering about a man who masters it. Most men overdo their facial expressions in public. They plaster on wide smiles, hoping to appear approachable, or they stay completely blank, which comes off as cold. Neither creates intrigue. The smirk works because it sits perfectly in the middle, subtle enough to be mysterious, but strong enough to signal confidence. Picture this. Michael, 48, a financial advisor from Austin, is at a rooftop bar with some colleagues. Across the room he notices Jenna, 44, chatting with friends. Instead of forcing a big grin, Michael simply lets the corner of his mouth rise ever so slightly while holding her gaze for just a second. Then he looks away, calm and composed. That tiny gesture was enough to shift Jenna's attention. Later, she admitted it wasn't his looks or his clothes that caught her. It was the expression that made her curious. She thought, what does he know? Why did he look at me like that? That's the psychology behind it. A smirk plants a question, and unanswered questions are powerful. They linger, they replay in her mind, they make her want another glance, another chance to figure you out. A smile resolves tension, a smirk creates it, and tension is the fuel of attraction. Now, here's where technique matters. The smirk should be subtle, just one side of the mouth, no teeth, lasting a second or two. Pair it with steady eyes and calm posture. Anything longer turns into staring. Anything bigger turns into clowning. The point is not to show off. The point is to suggest something. Suggestion is always more powerful than explanation. Michael didn't need to cross the room or start a conversation right away. That smirk did the work for him. Jenna already felt the pull before a single word was spoken. That's how non-verbal signals change the entire dynamic in public settings. Why does this tie so closely to Stoicism? Because restraint is strength. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The smirk is self-mastery in action. You're not chasing approval. You're not begging for attention. You're simply in control of your expression, and that control makes people come to you. Women especially feel that difference. It's rare, and rare always attracts. Think of it this way. A smile tells her you're available. A smirk tells her you're selective. And women are drawn to men who don't give themselves away too easily. The less you reveal, the more she wants to discover. So here's your rule. Forget the big grin. Use the smirk. Let it be small, quick, and deliberate. Give her just enough to wonder, then move on as if nothing happened. That mystery will do more for you than any loud introduction ever could. If you've ever seen how a look across the room can change everything, type this in the comments. I spark curiosity. And remember, this is just the beginning, because the next move isn't about your mouth at all, it's about your eyes. And when you learn how to use them, you'll see just how powerful silent attention can be. Number 2, eye contact that pulls her in. There's a reason eye contact feels so electric. You don't need to say a word, but the moment your eyes lock with hers, something happens. Her body reacts before her mind does. A rush of curiosity, a flicker of heat, a question she can't quite answer. And if you know how to control that moment, you can pull her in without moving a single step. Here's the problem most men face. They either avoid eye contact altogether, darting their eyes away out of nervousness, or they hold it too long, turning what could have been magnetic into something awkward. The secret lies in precision, strong enough to register, short enough to stay mysterious. That balance makes her feel the tension instead of the discomfort. Think of it as a rhythm. The right way is simple. Let your eyes meet hers, steady and calm, for about 1.5 to 2 seconds. No darting, no overthinking, just presence. Then you break it first. That's the key, you end it on your terms. By being the one to look away, you flip the dynamic. You leave her wondering, why did he stop? What was he thinking? That open loop hooks her far more than endless staring ever could. The psychology here is powerful. Eye contact activates the part of the brain linked to intimacy and recognition. When you hold it briefly but deliberately, you create a spark that feels intentional. You didn't stumble into it. You chose it. And choice is what separates a man who has presence from one who's just hoping for luck. But presence is not performance. Your eyes shouldn't scream, "Look at me." They should quietly communicate, "I see you." The difference is subtle, but she feels it instantly. One makes her uncomfortable, the other makes her curious. This is where Stoic wisdom connects perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Eye contact is exactly that, a moment of self-mastery. You can't control whether she notices you back, but you can control how steady your gaze is, how long you hold it, and when you choose to release. That composure is what makes the moment powerful. Now, here's a detail most men miss. Your head and body language matter as much as your eyes. If your head tilts down or your shoulders cave in, the look feels weak. Keep your head level, posture strong, breath slow. That way, your gaze carries weight. You're not asking for approval, you're simply being seen. And when you combine all of this, the steady eyes, the calm breathing, the confident release, you create something rare. You create awareness without attachment. You let her feel noticed, but you don't demand anything. That restraint draws her in more than any words could. Here's your rule. Hold her gaze just long enough for it to spark, then break it first. Let her imagination finish what you started. That's the art of controlled tension, and tension is what lingers. If you've ever felt how one glance can shift the entire energy in the room, type this in the comments. I own the look. And remember, eye contact is just one layer, because the real magnetism isn't only in how you look at her, it's in how you stay still and let her move toward you. And that's exactly what comes next. Number 3, stillness that makes her approach you. In a world where everyone is fidgeting, scrolling, and trying to be noticed, stillness stands out. A man who can sit, stand, or simply exist in a room without chasing attention creates a gravitational pull. Women notice because it's rare, and rare makes them curious. Most men think they have to do something to get noticed. They laugh louder, they gesture more, they bounce from person to person, desperate to prove their value. But what actually works is the opposite, being calm, centered, and still. When you don't need to chase, people feel that. Women especially feel that. It tells them you're grounded, not restless. That you're in control, not needy. Take Mark, 52, from California. He was at a friend's backyard cookout, the kind of gathering where everyone talks over each other and the energy is buzzing. Instead of competing for attention, he leaned back in his chair, shoulders relaxed, drink in hand, quietly observing. No frantic energy, no overcompensating. Across the yard, Lisa, 49, noticed him. Later, she admitted it wasn't what he said, it was how still he was. Everyone else was performing, she told a friend, but he looked like he didn't need to prove anything. That's what drew me in. She eventually walked over and started a conversation. That's the psychology behind stillness. Movement says, notice me. Stillness says, I already notice myself, and that's far more attractive. When you're still, you create space for her curiosity. She begins to wonder, why isn't he chasing? What makes him so calm? That wondering is what brings her closer. Here's the science. The nervous system responds to regulation. When you're jittery, it signals anxiety. When you're still, it signals safety. Women instinctively lean toward the man who feels safe and steady, but not boring. Your calmness becomes her calmness, and that exchange builds an instant sense of trust. Now, here's where most men get it wrong. Stillness doesn't mean frozen. It doesn't mean sitting stiff like a statue. It means controlled, intentional presence. Your movements are slower. Your breath is steady. You're not rushing to fill silence or space. You're comfortable letting the moment unfold without forcing it. This is where Stoic thinking ties in perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That's the essence of stillness. You're not escaping into noise or performance. You're comfortable in yourself. That comfort radiates outward, and she feels it before you say a word. Think about how rare this is today. Everyone's glued to their phones. Everyone's trying to look busy or important. A man who can sit calmly, take in the room, and just be creates contrast. And attraction is often about contrast. You stand out by doing less, not more. Mark didn't have to chase Lisa across the yard. He didn't have to crack the loudest joke. His stillness did the work. And when she approached, he met her energy calmly, without breaking the very presence that drew her in. That's the real trick, not just attracting her, but keeping that same calm when she comes closer. So here's your rule. Stop fidgeting. Stop chasing. Let stillness be your magnet. The less you move, the more she will. The less you seek, the more she wonders. And the more she wonders, the closer she gets. If you've ever seen how stillness shifts the energy in a room, type this in the comments. I stay calm. Because once you master stillness, the real test is how you react when her attention finally lands on you. And that's exactly where we're going next. Number 4. Calm reactions that drive her curiosity. Attraction isn't always about what you do. Often, it's about how you don't react. Women pay attention to the way men handle being noticed. Do you get flustered? Do you overplay it, trying to impress? Or can you simply stay calm, letting the moment speak for itself? The last one is where the real power lies. Here's the reality. Most men, when a woman looks their way, immediately break their own frame. They adjust their shirt, laugh too loud, or rush into action. They signal nervousness by trying to capitalize on her attention, but that effort kills the attraction. It tells her you need her validation, and needing validation is the fastest way to lose it. The alternative is simple: calm, non-reactivity. When you notice her glance, you register it without changing who you are. You don't scramble for a line. You don't shift into performance. You hold your posture, keep your breathing steady, maybe let a slight smirk appear, and then continue with whatever you were doing. That calmness is rare, and rarity creates curiosity. Why does it work so well? Because women are used to men breaking themselves the moment they're noticed. When you don't, it disrupts her expectations. It forces her to ask, why isn't he reacting? Does he not care? Or is he simply that confident? That open loop is where attraction lives. You've turned the spotlight back on her mind, making her invest in figuring you out. This ties directly to Stoic philosophy. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In the public space, her attention is what happens to you. But your reaction or lack of overreaction is what defines the moment. When you stay calm, you demonstrate mastery of yourself. That mastery is what makes you magnetic. And here's the deeper psychology. Calmness is not indifference. You're not ignoring her. You're acknowledging her energy without giving away control of yours. That balance communicates strength. It says, "I see you, but I don't need to chase you." And that difference changes the way she perceives you. Think about what calm reactions look like in practice. She glances at you, and instead of fumbling or posturing, you meet her eyes briefly, hold steady, then return to your focus. She bumps into you in conversation, and instead of over-laughing or filling silence, you nod, smile softly, and stay composed. These tiny choices signal a man who doesn't get rattled, and women notice. Calm reactions also make you unpredictable. Most men are easy to read. They light up the moment a woman shows interest. But you stay steady, leaving her guessing. That guessing builds tension. And tension is the seed of desire. The truth is, women don't want men who react like everyone else. They want men who stand out by standing still, by staying centered, by not giving away their power just because someone noticed them. Calmness is the edge most men overlook. So here's your rule. When she gives you attention, don't hand all of yours back at once. Hold your frame. Let her curiosity do the work, because the less you give, the more she wants. If you've ever seen how silence or stillness made someone lean toward you, type this in the comments. I stay composed. Because once you learn to master calm reactions, you're ready for the next step, using absence, not attention, to make her chase you even harder. And that's what we'll cover next. Number 5. Leaving moments unfinished on purpose. One of the most underrated tools of attraction isn't what you say or do, it's what you don't finish. When you leave a moment hanging, when you give her just enough to feel something, but not enough to resolve it, you create a tension that lingers long after the interaction ends. That's the art of leaving moments unfinished on purpose. Most men think more is always better. They try to hold her attention as long as possible, explain every thought, stretch out conversations until they run dry. But what actually works is the opposite. Short, incomplete interactions carry more weight than long, predictable ones. Why? Because the human mind hates open loops. When something doesn't resolve, the brain keeps replaying it, searching for closure. That replay is what keeps you in her thoughts. Picture this. Daniel, 56, a marketing consultant from Chicago, meets Claire, 51, at a gallery opening. They talk briefly about a painting, laugh at a shared observation, and just as the moment feels warm, Daniel glances at her, smirks slightly, and excuses himself to greet someone across the room. He doesn't drag it out. He doesn't explain. He leaves Claire standing there, smiling to herself, wondering what else he might have said if he had stayed. Later that night, she told a friend, "I couldn't stop thinking about that conversation. It felt unfinished." That's the exact point. Unfinished moments leave her imagination to do the work. Instead of giving everything away, you let her mind fill the gap. And what her mind creates is often more powerful than anything you could have said in the first place. This works in more than just conversations. It can be as simple as meeting her gaze, holding it long enough to register, then breaking it before she's ready, or giving a warm smile and walking away before she expects you to. These micro moments create what psychologists call curiosity gaps. And curiosity is one of the most addictive emotions there, Island. But this is not about playing games, it's about discipline. Most men don't know when to stop. They keep talking until the energy drops. The art is to leave while the energy is still high, while she's still engaged. That timing is what makes the memory stick. This ties beautifully to Stoic thought. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." The same principle applies here. If you give everything, you leave nothing for her to seek. By holding back, by being intentional about absence, you give her space to want more, and wanting more is the engine of attraction. Daniel didn't need to dominate the conversation. He didn't need to monopolize Claire's time. By leaving the moment unfinished, he created space for her to lean toward him mentally. That space is where attraction breathes. Here's the truth. Women don't crave the man who gives it all away at once. They crave the man who knows how to give just enough, then step back. Because that restraint forces them to engage, to wonder, to chase. So here's your rule. Don't finish every moment. Leave some doors half open. End conversations before they go stale. Step away while the spark is alive. Because what's unfinished will always echo louder than what's complete. If you've ever felt the pull of an incomplete moment, type this in the comments. I leave mystery. And remember, once you understand how unfinished moments create curiosity, the next step is learning how to use tension itself, building it in public so she feels it across the room. And that's exactly where we're going next. Number 6. Creating tension she feels across the room. You don't need to be standing next to her for attraction to begin. The most magnetic men know how to create a charge that can be felt from across the room. It's not about flashy movements or loud behavior. It's about subtle control of rhythm, timing, and presence. When done right, she senses you before you've even spoken a word. Here's the truth. Tension is born in the pauses. Most men rush through interactions, filling every second with noise or movement. But tension thrives in the spaces between. It's in the slight delay before you look her way, the slow turn of your body, the pause before you speak. Those micro moments tell her you're not in a hurry. You're in control, and control is what makes her feel your presence, even from a distance. Think about this in practice. You walk into a cafe, and instead of scanning frantically for attention, you move with calm deliberation. Your steps are steady, your gaze purposeful. You don't rush to order, you don't fidget. You simply exist with quiet composure. She notices because everyone else is rushing, tapping, reacting. Your stillness creates contrast, and that contrast radiates. She feels it, even if she can't explain it. Tension also comes from unpredictability. If you meet her eyes, don't hold them endlessly. Hold them just long enough to register, then break away at your pace. That unfinished gesture creates an open loop in her mind. Now, she's replaying it, wondering if you'll look again. This is tension at its purest, anticipation mixed with curiosity. The Stoics spoke often of control not over others, but over yourself. Epictetus reminded his students, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. The irony is that by not trying to control her response, you control the energy you project. Your calm restraint becomes the signal she feels. She senses your freedom from neediness, and that freedom draws her closer. What makes this powerful is that it doesn't depend on words. You could be across the bar, across the street, across the office, and the way you move, pause, and hold yourself still transmits everything. It tells her you're grounded. It tells her you're intentional. It tells her you're not just another man trying too hard to be seen. The mistake most men make is chasing attention. They wave, they perform, they exaggerate. All of that burns the tension instantly. Why? Because attention-seeking gives away the ending. There's no mystery left. Tension only exists when something is held back. When you give everything, you leave nothing to imagine. Instead, think of tension as a dance. You create it by giving small doses, then pulling back. A glance here, a pause there. A shift of your presence that says, I could engage, but I don't need to, yet. That uncertainty is electric. It keeps her tuned in, waiting for what comes next. Here's the rule. Don't try to force energy toward her. Create it within yourself and let it radiate outward. Slow down your movements. Embrace pauses. Break eye contact first. Let anticipation do the work. Because when you master tension, she'll feel you long before you speak. If you've ever seen how a room changes when one person walks in with calm, controlled presence, type this in the comments. I create tension. And remember, tension is only half the equation. The real secret is knowing when to release it, how to let the energy break in a way that makes her lean even closer. That's exactly what comes next. Number 7. Presence that speaks louder than words. Some men think attraction is about what you say, the right line, the perfect joke, the clever comeback. But here's the truth. Words are secondary. The strongest impact comes from presence, the way you carry yourself, the way you enter a space, the way you hold silence without needing to fill it. Presence speaks before your mouth even opens, and women feel it instantly. Presence isn't about size, status, or noise. It's about energy. It's the calm weight you bring into the room that makes people pause, even if they don't know why. And when a woman feels that presence, it draws her curiosity faster than any rehearsed pickup line ever could. Let me give you an example. Jonathan, 55, from Boston, is a contractor who spends most of his week on job sites. On weekends, he likes going to jazz lounges with friends. One Friday night, he walked in with his buddy and took a seat at the bar. No grand entrance, no need to announce himself. He sat, leaned back, ordered a drink, and simply listened to the music. Across the bar, Melissa, 50, noticed him. What caught her wasn't anything he said, it was how steady he looked. She later admitted, "He wasn't trying to be noticed. That's what made me notice him." She eventually walked over and asked what he was drinking. His presence started the conversation long before his words did. Why does this work? Because presence is rare. Most men either fade into the background or push too hard for attention. Presence is the middle ground. It's subtle, calm, undeniable. It tells her you're secure in yourself, that you don't need approval to feel strong, and that security is magnetic. Presence also creates contrast. In a loud, chaotic environment, a man who doesn't compete for attention stands out. His stillness, his composure, his focus, it becomes a signal of strength. Women are wired to notice strength, not in brute force, but in emotional steadiness. Your presence communicates that steadiness without a single word. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When your thoughts are calm and centered, your presence reflects it. You don't need to act. You don't need to perform. Your inner state speaks through your outer energy. That's the kind of presence that lingers. Jonathan didn't need to chase Melissa. His presence did the work. She felt the difference between him and the men who were louder, flashier, or trying too hard. And when she approached, he didn't break that presence. He stayed calm, steady, letting the interaction flow naturally. That's what sealed the attraction. Here's the truth. Presence is more than body language. It's a mindset. It's knowing you don't need to prove anything. It's being comfortable in silence. It's moving with purpose instead of rushing. It's listening fully instead of waiting to talk. All of these small choices build the kind of presence that makes people lean toward you. So, here's your rule. Stop thinking about the perfect thing to say. Focus instead on how you are in the room. Women don't remember every word you speak. They remember how they felt when you were near. And that feeling comes from presence, not lines. If you've ever seen how a man's energy speaks louder than anything he says, type this in the comments. I carry presence. Because once you master presence, you'll realize that even the way you exit a moment, how you leave her with mystery, can spark even more desire. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Number 8. Mystery in the way you exit. Most men obsess over how to make an entrance. They think it's about walking into the room with energy, being noticed immediately, or saying the perfect thing to start a conversation. But what really leaves the deepest impression isn't how you enter, it's how you exit. The way you leave creates mystery, and mystery is what lingers in her mind long after the moment is over. Here's the mistake most men make. They overstay. They keep talking until the energy fades. They wait until the conversation runs dry. They leave only when the interaction has lost its spark. That timing robs the moment of its power. The right move is to step away before it's finished, to leave while the energy is still alive, while she still wants more. That's how you create mystery. Think about it like a movie that cuts to black before the story fully resolves. Your mind keeps replaying it, trying to fill in the blanks. That's exactly what happens when you exit on your terms. While the moment is still open, she keeps replaying it, wondering why you chose to leave, wondering what you would have said or done if you had stayed longer. That curiosity keeps you alive in her thoughts. Mystery in your exit isn't about disappearing abruptly, it's about controlled restraint. You might be in the middle of a good laugh, then pause, give her a knowing glance, and excuse yourself calmly. You might hold her gaze just a beat longer, then turn away slowly. These tiny details transform a normal goodbye into something memorable. It's not rejection, it's suggestion, and suggestion is always stronger than explanation. The Stoics knew the value of leaving things unsaid. Epictetus taught, "Silence is safer than speech. By holding back, you give more than by overgiving. Your restraint speaks louder than anything you could say." In the same way, exiting with mystery shows you're not desperate to prolong the moment. You're in control of yourself, and that control is what draws her in. Psychologically, this taps into scarcity. The less she has of you, the more valuable you become. If you're always available, always lingering, she has no reason to chase. But if you leave when she least expects it, you create space. That space is where desire grows. Because desire doesn't live in what's complete, it lives in what's unfinished. Another key to exiting with mystery is pacing. Don't rush, don't scramble for the door. Move slowly, calmly, like you're carrying your own rhythm. A steady pace makes it feel intentional, not accidental. That intentionality is what makes her wonder. If you leave abruptly, she feels dismissed. If you leave calmly, she feels intrigued. So here's your rule. Don't just focus on how you enter. Pay attention to how you exit. End conversations while they're still alive. Step away while she still has questions. Leave the moment unfinished on purpose, because it's the exit that creates the echo. And that echo is what she replays in her mind. If you've ever noticed how leaving at the right moment made you more memorable than staying too long, type this in the comments. I leave mystery. And keep this in mind when you know how to exit with mystery. The next level is learning how to command an entire room without chasing a single soul. And that's exactly what we'll cover next. Number 9. Owning the room without chasing anyone. There's a big difference between being in the room and owning the room. Most men confuse ownership with noise. They think they have to be the loudest laugh, the boldest move, the center of every conversation. But the man who truly owns the room doesn't need to chase attention. His presence is enough. People notice him not because he demands it, but because he carries himself with quiet authority. And that's exactly what women feel drawn to. Let's make this real. David, 54, from Seattle, attended a charity dinner hosted by a local foundation. The room was filled with chatter, clinking glasses, and plenty of people trying to impress. David didn't push himself into every group or tell the biggest stories. Instead, he stood with relaxed posture, hands lightly in his pockets, speaking calmly with two colleagues. Across the room, Jennifer, 50, noticed him. Later, she admitted, he wasn't the loudest guy there, but somehow he looked like the man in charge. Everyone seemed to lean toward him. What drew her wasn't performance, it was presence. That's the psychology of owning a room. People gravitate towards stillness, composure, and confidence. When you don't chase validation, you project strength. Women feel it immediately. Men respect it too. You set the tone simply by being steady, while others compete for space. Owning the room starts with your body language. Shoulders back, movements unhurried, gestures minimal but intentional. You don't fidget, you don't shrink, and you don't dominate with wild energy. Instead, you occupy space like you belong there. And belonging is the key. When you believe you deserve to be in the room, others believe it too. But presence goes beyond posture. It's also about focus. When you speak to someone, you give them full attention. No scanning the room for something better, no rushing your words. That grounded focus makes people feel valued. And the man who makes others feel valued becomes magnetic without chasing anyone. This connects directly with Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Stop trying to prove your worth to the room. Simply be the man who doesn't need to prove anything. That inner calm will radiate outward, and the room will feel it without you lifting a finger. The mistake many men make is believing that control means dominance. They think they need to outshine everyone. But true control is quiet. It's the ability to stay centered while chaos swirls around you. Women find that deeply attractive because it communicates stability. In a world full of noise, the man who brings silence and calm becomes unforgettable. Think about David again. He didn't run around trying to meet everyone. He didn't perform, but by standing grounded and letting others approach him, he owned the space. Jennifer wasn't the only one who noticed. Others leaned in, 2 colleagues, strangers, even the event organizers. All because he carried himself with a calm confidence that made the room bend toward him. So here's your rule. Stop chasing the room. Let the room chase you. Hold your posture. Slow your movements. Speak with calm focus. Don't try to be seen. Let your presence make you impossible to miss. If you've ever felt the power of commanding attention without even trying, type this in the comments. I own presence. And remember, owning the room is powerful, but the deepest pull comes when you can create silence so controlled, so deliberate, that it turns into desire itself. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Number 10. Controlled silence that turns into desire. Imagine this. You're standing next to a woman in an elevator. The space is quiet, almost heavy. She can hear the sound of your breathing, the subtle movement of your jacket, the soft hum of the elevator motor. And in that silence, the air feels charged. No words are spoken, yet she feels it tension, curiosity, even a spark of desire. That's the power of controlled silence. It's not emptiness, it's presence. And when you learn to hold it, you can create a pull that no line or gesture could ever replace. Most men fear silence. The moment things get quiet, they rush to fill the space with words, jokes, questions, nervous chatter, anything to avoid the discomfort. But here's the secret. Silence is not your enemy. When you control it, silence becomes your greatest weapon. It's the space where attraction breathes. It's the gap where her imagination comes alive. Why does this work so well? Because silence heightens awareness. When you stop talking, she notices everything else, your tone of breath, your posture, your gaze. The details become louder, and in that heightened state, her mind starts to race. What is he thinking? Why isn't he saying anything? Is he this calm with everyone, or just with me? Those unanswered questions create desire, not because you did more, but because you did less. Controlled silence also signals mastery. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Most men waste moments by rushing. They burn through opportunities by talking too much or pushing too hard. But when you slow down and allow silence, you show that you're not wasting the moment, you're owning it. You don't need to fill the air. You let the air fill with your presence. Here's another layer. Silence isn't just about what you don't say, it's about when you don't say it. After a laugh, instead of piling on another comment, you pause and hold the moment. After eye contact, instead of looking away immediately, you let the silence stretch for a beat longer. After she finishes speaking, instead of rushing to respond, you wait. That delay creates a rhythm she can feel. It's like music, the rests between notes are what make the song powerful. And silence isn't just calm, it's seductive. When you're comfortable enough to let silence hang, you're showing that you're not nervous, you're not needy, and you're not afraid of intimacy. That confidence creates a safe yet charged environment. Women lean into that. They feel the difference between a man who scrambles to fill silence and a man who commands it. Think of controlled silence as a frame. It highlights everything around it. Your smirk becomes sharper. Your eye contact feels deeper. Your gestures seem more intentional. Because in silence, every detail matters, and details are what women remember. The truth is, controlled silence flips the script. Most men are noise, few men are stillness, and in that contrast lies your advantage. You stand out not by shouting, but by creating space that makes her want to step closer. So here's your rule. Don't fear silence, own it. Use it deliberately. Let it stretch long enough to build tension, then break it with a word, a look, or even just a small movement. That break becomes unforgettable because of the silence that came before it. Controlled silence is not absence, it's presence, amplified. And when you learn to hold it, you transform quiet moments into magnetic ones. That's how silence turns into desire. You've just discovered 10 powerful ways to shift the energy in any public space without saying a word. These aren't tricks to perform. They're signals of calm, confidence, and restraint that women feel instantly and remember long after. From the smirk that makes her wonder to the controlled silence that builds desire, each move is rooted in presence, and presence is what separates the man who chases attention from the man who naturally attracts it. If you want more insights like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.